This isn't the RNC speaking. This isn't the establishment speaking. This is the voters speaking. And when you look at the path going forward, take personality out of it.
You're telling Nikki Haley that she needs to get out?
I'm just saying look at the path and the math. And I think you have to reflect tonight, if you're in the Haley campaign, and say, if I'm not on the ballot in Nevada, if I'm not going to maybe win my home state, what's the most important thing going forward? And every Republican has to agree that Joe Biden is a threat to our country. And if we do not unite, and if we don't coalesce to beat him, then we're not going to be successful in 10 months, where the Senate's at stake, the House is at stake, and the White House is at stake. And I just don't see the path and the math. I hope she reflects tonight. I think it's time to move forward, and I think Donald Trump is going to be the nominee.
The jury has now ruled. They have found him liable of sexual abuse. Do you not trust the jury and their findings, Ambassador?
I absolutely trust the jury, and I think that they made their decision based on the evidence. I just don't think that should take him off the ballot. I think the American people will take him off the ballot. I think that's the best way to go forward, is not let him play the victim, let him play the loser. That's what we want him to do at the end of the day.
Like, here's how the Wall Street Journal editorial board is thinking about your campaign. They write, if she can remain competitive, there's an argument for Ms. Haley to stay in the race through the July convention. Mr. Trump faces a treacherous legal road, and one of the cases against him could go to trial. If he's convicted of a felony, 42% of voters in New Hampshire and nearly a third of Iowa's GOP caucus goers said Mr. Trump would be unfit for the presidency. Are you staying in this race in case Donald Trump is convicted of a crime, Ambassador?
I've never stayed in this race because of court cases. Really, I don't know what all the court cases are. I haven't paid attention to what he's won, what he's lost, what he's fighting for, any of that.
All right, guys, so we got to talk about Nikki Haley, who, for whatever reason, is still in the GOP primary race, even though it seems like she's not going to have a snowball chance in hell of winning. But who knows? I mean, stranger things have happened. I personally believe that Nikki Haley is in the race in order to continue to hurt Trump on behalf of the establishment. That is the only reason I can think of in my mind that Nikki Haley is still in the race. In fact, if you listen to Nikki Haley talk, I don't think she has an explanation for why she's still in the race that makes sense, okay? And that's what we have to talk about here today, as Nikki Haley did an interview with Kirsten Welker on Meet the Press, in which she was confronted over the fact that the RNC allegedly was in the process of drafting a resolution or making a move to declare former President Trump the winner of the GOP primary, the presumptive nominee for the GOP going into the general election. Clearly and obviously, Nikki Haley does not like that, okay? And she also was confronted on her path to victory moving forward, considering how in South Carolina she's currently getting blown out by Trump, again, in her own home state. And I want to react to Nikki Haley's answers to these questions in this interview, because it really does show you how delusional Nikki Haley actually is. Take a look.
Sir, do you think, just going back to the RNC calling for the party to unify around Trump, which happened, by the way, during the New Hampshire primary before the polls had even closed, do you think the RNC has been an honest broker in this case?
I mean, clearly not. If you're going to go and basically tell the American people that you're going to go and decide who the nominee is after only 2 states have voted, I mean, 48 states out there, this is a democracy. The American people want to have their say in who is going to be their nominee. We need to give them that. I mean, you can't do that based on just 2 states. And not only that, it's 1,215 delegates to reach the nomination. Donald Trump has 32. I have 17. So let's let this play out. Let's do what we need to. I mean, we saw South Carolinians. We had 1,500 people last night in Greenville County, and I think that Americans want to be able to make this decision themselves. I don't think this is the place of the RNC to do it. I think that Trump overstepped when he pushed them to do it, and I think that's why he's had to back down. And that was the right thing to do, was to back down.
And just, do you have actual knowledge and awareness that he pushed the RNC to do that and then pulled back?
I mean, we know exactly the people that pushed it are his people. And I know that during the debates, I mean, he was pushing Ronna McDaniel to stop the debates. He was calling her every other day. He's been pushing them to pay for his lawsuits and all of these other things. But at the end of the day, this is not about the RNC. This is about the American people. This is not about a political party deciding who they want to be the nominee. When I ran for governor, there were 5 candidates. I was far from the nominee. I was the one, I ran against a lieutenant governor, an attorney general, a congressman, and a state senator. They did the same thing to me then. I won then. I'm going to win now.
Let's talk about your path forward. As you know, Trump has a double-digit lead in the polls. He secured the endorsement of a lot of the top officials in your state. Do you need to win South Carolina, your home state, in order to win the nomination?
Well, let's first talk about the people that he surrounded himself in South Carolina. Yes, he got the endorsement of the governor, but that's the same governor that I defeated when I ran for governor. Yes, he got the endorsement of the political class in South Carolina, but that's the same group that I forced to have to show their votes on the record. It's the same group that I forced to pass ethics reform where they had to disclose their income. It's the same group where I vetoed $500 million of pet projects that I didn't think taxpayer dollars should go to. So there's no surprise there that the political elite are surrounding him there. Trump has become an insider. That's what it comes down to, is he's more interested in satisfying the elected class than he is in satisfying the people. When it comes to South Carolina, look, we wanted to be strong, and I think we started with 2% in Iowa. We ended up with 20%. We got to New Hampshire. We needed to do better than that. And we did. We got 43% of the vote. Now we're going into South Carolina. We need to be stronger than what we did in New Hampshire. And so that's certainly what we need to do. But it's not just that we need to be stronger, Kristen. Trump needs to be stronger. He's not getting the independent vote. He's not getting a segment of the Republicans. And so he's got some work to do as well.
Let me just make sure we get an answer, though, Ambassador Haley, because this is your home state. You were governor in the state of South Carolina. Do you need to win your home state in order to stay in this race? Is it do or die?
I think I need to do better than I did in New Hampshire. So this is a building situation.
But
it's not about which state you get and which state you don't.
Do you need to actually win? I hear you saying you need to do better, but don't you need to win your home state to show that you can win a state, win your home state, and really put some delegates on the map for yourself?
Well, we've got 17 delegates. He's got 32. I'd say that's pretty good to start. What I do think I need to do is I need to show that I'm building momentum. I need to show that I'm stronger in South Carolina than New Hampshire. Does that have to be a win? I don't think that necessarily has to be a win, but it certainly has to be better than what I did in New Hampshire, and it certainly has to be close. And so that's what we're focusing on. If we win, great. If not, we've got to show that we're continuing to narrow that margin along the way.
Yeah, so you seen that, you heard that. Okay, the delusion is off the charts with this woman, okay? But I'm going to start with the part about the RNC, okay? Because allegedly, the RNC was about to essentially draft a resolution to declare Trump the presumptive nominee because essentially there's never been a primary in history where the Republican won Iowa and New Hampshire, and then they went on to lose, okay? And if you look at the polls, I mean, just look at the national poll here. Nikki Haley is getting blown out, okay? Trump has 70% support. Nikki Haley has like 15%, okay? And we're going to look at some of the other polls at the state level moving forward and how Nikki Haley is performing. But again, when it comes to the RNC, I don't agree with Ronald McDaniels coming out and saying that Nikki Haley should drop out because she is the head of the RNC, okay? And the RNC, again, they are a body that's supposed to be neutral. Now, again, I'm not saying I disagree with her statement. I think that Nikki Haley should drop out. I just don't think that Ronald McDaniel should have said it out loud because it does lend credibility to this idea that the RNC essentially would just basically stop the primary and say, oh, well, you know, Trump's the winner. And that would be a very bad look, okay? It would be a very undemocratic thing to do, and it would just give Nikki Haley more fuel to attack Trump, which is exactly what she did, okay? She used that to attack Trump and to baselessly claim that, well, Trump is behind that, right? Trump was behind trying to stop the primaries, despite the fact that Trump came out and said, no, we have to win at the ballot box, okay? This is not what we should be doing. And then when asked to provide evidence that she knows that Trump was behind that, Nikki Haley does a brain fart, right? She can't really provide any real evidence. It's just a, hey, trust me, I know Trump was behind that, right? So again, I personally think that the RNC, that Ronald McDaniel should not have came out and said that. I think that was a mistake. I think it makes the Republican Party look undemocratic. And the last thing we need right now is for the RNC to look like the DNC, okay? Because the DNC just overtly does not believe in democracy. And the last thing we need is to give the mainstream liberal media more ammunition to attack Republicans as so-called threats to democracy by straight up canceling the GOP primary against their establishment favorite candidate, Nikki Haley. Okay, so bad move by Ronald McDaniels, but I think that Nikki Haley nonetheless is pretty delusional because she's trying to pretend like Trump is the establishment, right? Trump is the establishment and she's the outsider. And she tries to say that, well, because all of these Republicans in South Carolina are endorsing Trump, that means that Trump is with the establishment. And it's like, well, no. All of these people actually wanted to back you, right, if you had the juice. However, they care about their political careers. And because they know that Trump is going to win, they're backing him, okay, because they know that backing you could be the end of their careers, right? And also on top of that, a lot of these people are trying to get cabinet positions. You got some people like Tim Scott that is clearly and obviously trying to be vice president. I mean, some people are making fun of Tim Scott saying that he got engaged so that he can be vice president, okay? But don't get it twisted, right? A lot of these people that are now rallying around Trump when they were sitting it out the whole time, they're now doing it because they know that Trump is going to be the guy and they're just trying to save themselves, right? But you know, if you were actually competitive, right? If Nikki Haley was actually competitive, best believe that a lot of these people honestly would probably come out and be on team Nikki Haley. But because you're not competitive, you have no chance whatsoever, even in your home state of South Carolina. That's why you're not getting these endorsements. And speaking of South Carolina, this is where the real delusion comes in from Nikki Haley, because she claims that she doesn't need to win South Carolina in order to have a path towards victory. When South Carolina is her home state. She was governor there. She's currently getting blown out, right? 62 to 30. And if she doesn't win South Carolina, what state can you win? Okay, because New Hampshire was your best shot before South Carolina, and you lost New Hampshire. So if you don't win South Carolina, which it looks like she's not going to win, then how can you become the GOP nominee, Nikki? Right? Which state are you going to win, right? Like for example, let's look at Texas. Trump is up 75% to Nikki Haley's 12%. Florida, Trump is up 70% to Nikki Haley's 11.7%. California, Trump is up 73.5% to Nikki Haley's 15.3%. So again, which state are you going to win, Nikki? Right? Which state are you going to win? Because you can't lose all 50 states and become the GOP nominee, right? I'm not sure if that's the argument that she's trying to make. But for her to go on national television and say, well, I don't have to win South Carolina in order to have a path to victory is insane. Like, you're literally not in touch with reality. And the longer that you stay in the race, you're not helping Trump. You're actually hurting Trump because you're now attacking him and you're forcing Trump to use campaign resources to continue to campaign in the GOP primary when everybody knows he's going to be the nominee. Everybody knows he's going to be the nominee. And this is why I really do believe that Nikki Haley staying in the race is a plot from the establishment to continue to hurt Trump, specifically when it comes to his chances against Biden. Why do I say that? Because the longer that Nikki Haley stays in the race, the more campaign resources that Trump is going to use that he won't be able to use in the general election, okay? And he's going to have to defend himself against attacks from Nikki Haley. Now, I personally think that Trump should ignore Nikki Haley, okay? If I was Trump, if I was his advisors, I would say, look, stop attacking Nikki Haley. Right? Don't attack her. Just ignore Nikki Haley because she's not relevant. Okay? Continue to campaign, but don't attack and go after Nikki Haley because only thing you're doing is that you're making her more relevant than she should be. Right? And if you just ignore Nikki Haley, then she'll probably go away. Right? To be quite honest with you. Okay? So if I was Trump, I would just pretend like Nikki Haley's not in the race. I would actually be campaigning like I'm in the general by focusing a vast majority of my attacks against Joe Biden. Okay? And you don't need to attack Nikki Haley to win the GOP primary because you're already going to win regardless, right? So I would just save all my attacks for Joe Biden. Just focus on Joe Biden, okay? Because, you know, at this point, the voters have spoken. The voters will continue to speak. And I think that regardless of what happens with Nikki Haley, Trump is going to be the nominee. Now, again, Nikki Haley standing in the race, it really sucks because it makes it harder to unify. Okay, if Nikki Haley was about the party, okay, if she was actually about what the voters want, she would drop out and then unify and say, hey, let's put our differences aside and let's try to beat Joe Biden. But her staying in the race, to me, in my opinion, she's acting on behalf of Joe Biden. But I will say one thing. There is one good thing about Nikki Haley staying in the race. And I think that the Trump team should pay attention to this, is when Nikki Haley brought up independents, okay? Because there are a lot of independents that seem to like Nikki Haley for whatever reason. They came out and they voted for her in New Hampshire. And it will be interesting to see if that trend continues moving forward in these primaries. And if this is a trend that continues, this is something that the Trump team should pay attention to. They should gather that data and really take that data into consideration when we're talking about picking a VP. Because the next thing that Trump needs to do is to pick a VP. And I think that the VP pick is going to be extremely important because Trump needs to expand the base and to get those independent voters on board with voting for him. Okay. And I think his VP pick is going to be an essential part of doing that, right? So again, the one good thing about Nikki Haley remaining in the race is that it allows the Trump campaign to continue to gather more data on how independents are voting. He can use that data to then make a decision or to help him make a decision about VP, because I really do believe that Trump needs to pick a VP that is going to bring new voters into the party. Now, that doesn't mean compromising on a bunch of issues that we shouldn't have to compromise on, like, for example, the border, okay, or the economy, or some other issues like crime, etc. No, we don't have to compromise on those issues, and I don't think that Trump should compromise too much. But at the same time, that VP pick is going to be important for those independent voters. So paying attention to how they vote in the primary could be a key indicator of how they may vote in the general election, and the Trump campaign should pay very, very, very close attention to that. Nikki Haley remaining in the race, even though I believe she should drop out, does actually provide some insight in regards to what they're thinking and how they're voting, which could, again, be the key to picking the right vice presidential running mate for Trump. And I think that's going to be essential to winning versus Joe Biden. So let me know what you guys think. Make sure you like, comment, and subscribe. Most importantly, share a Black conservative perspective. Peace.